been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip-hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger just.
Medical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut. On this not too chilly, a little gray kind of, not too bad. I can deal with these kind of temperatures. January 16th that it is here down in Danbury. So we are live back 2 weeks in a row. Let's see if this week goes a little smoother.
Keep your fingers crossed for this.
Than last week's show as we got back into it after our holiday break. You can hear my right-hand man chatting away already, so let's say hello to one Bob Braut Jr.
How are you, Scott?
I'm doing good, Bob. And there we see Bob and his lovely lady friend on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we were over at Rosie Tomorrow's watching Dave King drop the ball.
With Comcast's very own Dave King.
Yeah.
Those of you who are into Dave King's music and you are out in the local scene, you know that he plays over at Rosie Tomorrow's quite often, so you can always check him out there. That was a good night, it looked like.
Oh, it was a great night.
Excellent. And, of course, Bob's show Spotlight On, Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. What have we been seeing on the show lately, Bob?
Various things, you know. I got next week I got the Demons and Whalers game highlights.
Okay, so we're into some of the Whalers stuff. You're catching up with them?
Yeah, we just did myself, Jolene, and the kids, we did the scout sleepover.
Oh, yeah? How'd that go?
Pretty good, except I didn't get much sleep. Because
Up all night?
it was too much noise.
Yeah, a lot of people hanging out, a lot of kids there. Was it a good turnout?
Oh, yeah.
Great. And in the control room, one Mike Toohey running things by himself tonight. His show, Expose Cinemas, Friday nights at 9, Wednesday afternoons at 1. No Peter Green a.k.a.
tonight,
Strange Man.
Well, we already have
We do have the Peter Green Strange Man stats of the week, which leads us right into what I'm going to talk about first, so let's just get right to it. Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, 15th time overall, 3rd time in the playoffs. Actually, it'll be the 4th time in the playoffs. He's off on that stat. It's happened. He's giving me misinformation. They've played 3 times in the playoffs. This is their 4th ever meeting. And that means that the Patriots did go ahead and beat the Colts last week and that the Broncos did go ahead and beat the Chargers last week in the divisional rounds of the playoffs. So we do get the matchup, probably the one everybody wanted.
Right.
I think there could be some people out there who were looking forward to maybe seeing Andrew Luck and the Colts take on.
He had no luck whatsoever.
Right, but the luck going into Denver against the Colts' former legendary QB Peyton Manning, that could have been an interesting scenario as well. But this is, of course, the great matchup between two of the all-time greats, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. The coaches and some of the players are getting tired of that talk. They're trying to say, it's Broncos versus Patriots, but it's Brady and it's Manning. Brady head-to-head overall. This is the 15th meeting. He holds a 10-4 advantage as far as the record goes. Now, I've seen some people try to point out that it's actually 4-4 in the last 8, which it is, Bob, but is also 3-1 in the last 4 for Brady. As in 2006, when the Colts had that epic comeback in the AFC Championship game, the game where the refs may have played a little bit of a hand in that game.
We have a phone call.
We have a phone call early.
Yes.
Let's see who we have on the line. Hello, we have a caller here. How's it going? Hello, can you hear us, caller?
Hi, how is it? Who do you think is going to win this?
Who's going to win the what?
Oh.
All right, caller, turn the volume of your TV down and
down.
speak to me on the phone. I think I know who this is. Mateo, how you doing? He's working on a delay, listening to A young caller.
Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl, well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves with that, but I have the Seattle Seahawks as my team to beat in the Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win?
I don't know. I'm not a football fan.
You just wanted to know my opinion. Well, we appreciate you calling in. Do you have anything else to ask?
No, we do not.
All right, well, thanks for calling. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Bye. All right, so we have a call. I do believe that was most likely our friends from the studio last week who were here watching the show. Mateo Shabu, very nice young gentleman who we got to get him more into football.
Right.
But at least he's watching, and at least he's asking the questions, who will win the Super Bowl? We need to take care of these AFC and NFC Championship games first to see who will actually be in the Super Bowl to get an accurate prediction.
Would you like to see Patriots and 49ers?
I'm a little tired of the 49ers myself. Their act is wearing thin on me, Bob.
But, I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, and it was, Brady grew up in the San Francisco area. Right. San Fran was his team. We thought we might get that last year, but we got the Harbaugh instead with the Harbaugh brothers in Baltimore and San Fran. It would be a good matchup, and it would be Brady trying to tie Montana with the fourth Super Bowl. He is currently tied with the playoff record for wins, most ever by a QB, 18, his 18-7 record. And that's another one that people have been pointing out. He was 10-0 to start, so 8-7 since. But, also that's another tricky stat because he's really 8-4 in the last 12. They lost in the undefeated season to the Giants. They lost then to the Ravens and then to the Jets.
Yes.
So they had a 3-game losing streak following that Super Bowl run where they did not complete the undefeated season. And since then, 8-4. So that's a pretty good record, much like the 4-4 in the last 8 games against Manning is really, Manning had he had a stretch where the Colts caught up to the Patriots. They won 4 out of 5 games.
Right.
But the Patriots have then since bounced back. They currently have beaten the Broncos 3 in a row, twice since Manning's been there, and overall 4-1 in the last 5 against Manning. So you can try and tweak those stats any way you want, Bob, and try to pick apart Brady and his record and pick apart whether or not it's really this great dominating stat against the Colts and against Manning and now against the Broncos. And it still comes out that he's 10-4 overall against Peyton Manning. It's a pretty good record.
Yeah.
And they beat him, of course, this year with the great comeback. I do know full well that the Patriots have had some tough times in Denver. Interestingly enough, 1984 through 1998, 11 straight victories for the Denver Broncos against the New England Patriots. I was there in 1997, as a matter of fact, on a Monday night game, and the Patriots lost 34-13. We had a good time, but that was a tough loss, and that was a tough place to go to watch a game, and there's no wonder the Broncos always enjoy a home field advantage out there. So they have had that upper hand, but they are 8-6 since then, and 4 straight against the Broncos. The Patriots are
right.
So they have turned the tide. You do remember though, however, in 2005, the divisional round when the Patriots were going for a three-peat at that time. They didn't have a great regular season, and they ended up having to go out and face Jake Plummer and the Denver Broncos. And that was a crazy game as well. And they did lose that game out there in Denver, and their Super Bowl run ended there, and they have not won the Super Bowl since. Been back twice, have not won, of course, losing to your Giants, Bob.
And that was a great game.
Yeah, well, a couple great games. Let's see. In the playoffs, though, against Peyton Manning, 2003 AFC Championship game, Patriots beat them 24-14. Divisional round in 2004, 20-3 beat down the Patriots put on those Colts, who were favored in that game. And then, of course, the 2006 game when the Colts came back 38-34. Don't get me started on the refs in that game, Bob.
Oh,
Don't get me started.
That's going to be a question mark for both games this weekend.
Yeah, well,
what's the refs going to?
Hopefully the refs stay out of it, and they don't get involved, and we just get to see what happens. The interesting thing is going to be to see, are the Patriots going to continue to try and run the ball, Bob? What's with the rushing attack? 6 rushing touchdowns in the game against the Colts. No passing TDs in the 43-22 beatdown of the Colts. 4 interceptions as well.
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blount coming on strong with 4 TDs of his own. 230 or so rushing yards combined between all the backs. And the other nice stat I saw was 3 sacks. They got to Luck, who is a tough guy to get to. He usually does not take sacks. So they had pressure on the quarterback, led to the interceptions. I think it's going to be important, obviously, to get pressure on Manning and bring him down and force him into some bad throws. Maybe some more interceptions in this game will be certainly helpful. The Broncos were cruising, it seemed like, in that Chargers game. I'm not sure what the Chargers' plan of attack was, but they did not get off to a great start. But after it was 24-0, the Chargers came storming back. They were down 7, Bob.
I know.
In a 3rd and 17 play with like 4 minutes left. If they could have stopped them right there, they would have been able to try to tie this game up.
Easy.
Unbelievably, they left the receiver wide open. I mean, nobody anywhere near Thomas on that play. I mean, what are they doing? So, and then he ended up converting 2 more 3rd downs,
right?
Where the Chargers were still trying to get the ball back, and they got to run out the clock. Big onside kick recovery in that game helped the Chargers get back into it. In the other games, San Fran, Carolina was way too heavily involved in the chippiness of the whole thing. A lot of arguing going on. We saw some headbutts. Unfortunately for Carolina, even though they were the home field, the refs only called the extracurricular stuff against the Panthers.
Of course.
They did not call the headbutts that were going on for, Anquan Bolden was going crazy. And here we see the mockery that took place. What is Colin Kaepernick thinking here? I hate it when these players do this because it's premeditated.
Oh, yeah.
He goes and mocks Cam Newton's Super Bowl celebration in Carolina. I think that's Bush League myself. I don't like to see that sort of thing. So San Fran pulled away with that 23-10 victory against Carolina. Second half, Carolina barely had the ball at all. Completely shut out at home, and they didn't have the ball really at all. Newton was intercepted twice in that game. Seattle was in full control as well, much like Denver, Bob, on a rainy Saturday of football. It was raining on the West Coast, raining on the East Coast. You went from a rain game in Seattle to a rain game in New England. But they held on for a 23-15 win against the Saints. There was the tip drill touchdown for the Saints that helped them get out. They were shut out in the first half, but they scored 15 in the fourth quarter, and they had the ball, Bob, and they completed a pass down to the sideline where the receiver could have just stepped out of bounds, and they could have set up one final play from about 35 yards out, which is reasonable play. That's not even necessarily a legitimate Hail Mary. That's a play you can run. But inexplicably, they tried to do the lateral all the way across the field, and he threw it forward. And that ended the game as they ran it. They had to run the clock out because it was an offensive penalty inside 10 seconds. So it was an automatic runoff of the clock, game over. When he could have just stepped out of bounds to set up one final play. So not a good end for the Saints there as they tried to continue their winning ways on the road as they snapped that losing streak by beating Philly the week before. They couldn't do it in Seattle. So we got rematches abound in these division rounds. San Fran at Seattle, a 3.5-point favorite. Seattle is the 49ers. Currently, Bob, quietly, 8-game winning streak.
Yeah.
I was not aware that winning streak was that long, but we do know that they have lost the last 2 times and lost badly, that they have gone to Seattle. We also know that the coaches hate each other.
Oh, yes.
Big time hatred between these two coaches. It should be a good physical game. They both thrive on defense. Seattle, maybe not as explosive offensively, but they have the great rushing attack, and they do seem to come up with big plays on the offensive side of the ball when they need to with Russell Wilson. Kaepernick has been a little bit shoddy at times, but he also has made plays lately with his legs, and he can deliver the ball. He has more weapons, perhaps, offensively.
Right.
So it's going to be a tough game. In the last 3 games, one of which was won by San Francisco in San Francisco, 17-16 or something like that. They have been outscored, including that game, 88-35.
That's a big...
by Seattle. So you know that those 2 games they lost in Seattle the last 2 years in a row have been blowouts of big-time proportions. So that's what's going on with football.
Oh, I see today's news, Sexy Rexy has been signed to another
extension. Bad news for the Jets, if you ask me, but they seem to be drinking his Kool-Aid suddenly. Yeah. I don't know why. He's got them hook, line, and sinker. He's selling them a bill of goods.
And something else.
3 straight years out of the playoffs, Bob. How about an extension?
Yeah.
Hey,
sure,
all right.
Why not?
You know?
And then, of course, the big news in New York.
Baseball?
Yeah. He's gone for 162 games.
What is with this psychopath, A-Rod? They hand down the full season suspension, including playoffs, which they didn't do last year to the guys who were able to come back in the postseason, which we know was a bad deal. They fixed that problem. A-Rod is gone for the year. He's suing everybody. He already was planning on suing the Yankees, suing the Yankees doctors, suing Bud Selig.
Take Major League Baseball to the cleaners.
Major League Baseball, and he's suing the Players Association. And then yesterday, did you see he opened up a sports fitness place in Mexico City, of all places?
Why
and
out there?
In his statement, he says that baseball's doing him a favor, and he's happy to take the year off. Why is he suing everybody if he thinks this is a good thing? Having 2014 off to rest since he's played 20 consecutive years without a rest. Didn't he only play about 30 games last year?
Yeah.
I think he had a pretty good rest last year.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. So he's a total psychopath.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's suing everybody, but he thinks it's a good thing.
And the thing is, what A-Rod makes, you could pay almost a whole team for the season.
Shelling out all that money to his lawyers.
Yeah.
So I don't really want the A-Rod thing. I am so over it. I'm so done with it. I just want it to go away.
Yeah.
He is suspended. I had that pegged, Bob. I told you that was going to happen. No way he was getting out of that. The one person he hasn't, one interesting thing I've noticed, he hasn't tried to sue Tony Bosch because, that would be the guy to go after, because if what A-Rod is saying, that everything is false, the guy who's got all the evidence against him, maybe you go sue that guy because he's lying. But A-Rod's not suing that guy. That's a telling one right there. And he's not suing like New York Times or 60 Minutes, the people who are doing the exposés and putting forth all the evidence. So A-Rod's a psychopath. He's totally crazy. All right, we got about 10 minutes, Bob. We got things to catch up on. Let's do NHL first and then finish with basketball. Boston and Tampa Bay are currently tied atop their divisions at 60 points apiece. The Bruins have lost 3 out of 4, so they're in a little bit of a spin after a good. Overall they're playing great, but they have lost a couple of games recently. Pittsburgh Penguins in the Eastern Conference are the team way out on top, 70 points, 10 points ahead of both Tampa and Boston. So the Penguins are the team to beat. Your Rangers currently in 8th place by themselves, 51 points.
Well, they had a 3-game winning streak and then
snapped by the mighty Ning. The Lightning with a 2-1 victory against your Rangers. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10. Talking about other teams that are hot in their last 10, the Islanders finally have woken up, 7-3-0.
Yeah, it took them a little while.
It started with a victory over the Bruins, as a matter of fact, a 5-3 comeback win right around New Year's, the Islanders, and they have been hot ever since. Somebody needs to tell them that it was not a lockout-shortened season. They should have been playing earlier in the year, but at least they're getting it going now. They're still in last place in the Metro with 43 points. which would have them, 8 points out of the last playoff spot that the Rangers are holding down.
Right.
Right there, we're looking at some of the New Year's Day shots. Detroit versus Tampa Bay, or versus Toronto. Great scene there with all the snow at Michigan, home of the Wolverines, the big house. Toronto won that game. Usually that home team wins in those scenarios. So the Caps and the Flyers are at 52 points, so they're in the playoff picture. Montreal 4th place, Toronto 5th place, Montreal 57, Toronto 53. Those are the teams currently in right now. Islanders got a lot more work to do. How about Anaheim, Bob? Won 17 of 18 games out west, including beating your old coach Tortellini in Vancouver 9-1 last night. Bob,
how's those guys? The other guys in Jersey? How's the
the Devils are right behind your Rangers at 50 points, I think it is. Devils, sitting behind you at 50 points. So they are not in the spot, but it's a tight race. They've not been playing great, but they're a little better as of late. So maybe we'll see. There's still a long way to go. We're nearing the midway, actually probably just past the midway point. We're going to have the Olympics coming up, Bob, so that's going to be crazy too, because a lot of these players are going to
play in the Olympics.
They're going to play in the Olympics. No All-Star game this year.
Right.
But they are going to be playing in the Olympics. So, we'll see what's going on there. I'm getting a little text shout out from somebody, a local establishment. If you are in the area, you like to go down to the Putnam House, there's a good place to go. As they are apparently, the owner is watching right now, so good show. Shout out. He's a Vikings fan.
Oh, is he?
Tough year. Tough year for Danny Moe and those Vikings. So let's just run down the stats before we finish with basketball. Chicago's second with 71 points. St. Louis, 69 points. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're hot. San Jose, 64 points. Joe Thornton, is that guy going to play forever or what? Bruins traded him like 14 years ago, and he's still going strong. The Avalanche, who have been struggling after their hot start, they're back hot again, 6-2-2 in their last 10, 63 points. LA, Jonathan Quick is back from injury. They're 61 points. Vancouver, even though that lost, they're in the mix at 57. Minnesota, 55 points.
So what
NBA,
what we got for NBA?
Celtics finally snapped their losing streak. 9 losses in a row it was, 14 out of 15 as well. Sad thing was they were in the mix in all those games, except for a couple they were blown out.
Right.
But they really could have won a lot of those games, unfortunately. So they snapped their streak last night. They are 14-26, looking for a high lottery pick, and they're starting to trade players as well. First, they traded Courtney Lee, who helped out Memphis in a big win the other night, to Memphis, and then they just traded Jordan Crawford to Sacramento to join Rudy Gay out there.
That's a hell of a stat, 14-26.
Tough. All right, here's the point of the show that is going to be a new part of the show, Bob.
What's that?
Under, over, Eastern Conference, 3 teams above 500. What do you think? Are we under or over 3 teams above 500 in the Eastern Conference?
I would say no.
They have gone over finally for the first time, Bob. 4 teams now over 500 in the Eastern Conference. Toronto, even though they lost to the Celtics last night, are still 19-18. They have moved above 500. And the Hawks, even though they lost today in London to the Nets, got blown out, as a matter of fact, 127-110. They are now 20-19, hanging by a thread above 500. We will play that game every week from here on out. Pacers and Heat, of course, above 500. The Heat came to town last week, Bob.
And they got beat by both teams.
Back-to-back nights in New York. First at the Garden and then in Brooklyn. As the Knicks and the Nets put the beat down on the Heat.
What was up with these names on the back of the shirts?
Promotional gig from the NBA with the nicknames on the back of the jerseys. Yeah, pretty much I think it was a stupid idea. Only half, not even half, the players have legitimate nicknames right there. Big Ticket, right there, Jet. Some of the guys had them. I would have liked it better to seen Pawn James instead of King James. Yeah. Or at least go old school Bron. But King James, come on. And Truth, it's the truth, not Truth. Come on with these nicknames. It was pretty silly. There we had Birdman, but half the guys had like stuff like D. Will and things like that. Not legitimate. All right, we're jumping ahead here to college for a second.
It can't be like Dr. J or any of them guys. I'm sorry.
Right. I mean, if everybody had a legitimate nickname, that'd be one thing, but not everybody does.
Right.
There were fake nicknames on the back of these jerseys. All right. Some teams I'm disappointed in the NBA Eastern Conference: Charlotte and Detroit, former Husky guys. These guys, come on. Why isn't Charlotte taking advantage of the bad Eastern Conference? They're 16-24. They snapped the Knicks' winning streak, actually, the other night, but then they lose to the Sixers. And Detroit, the same thing. 16-22. These guys got to do better. Right now, the Wizards beat the Heat last night. They're in the playoffs. Chicago traded Deng. We know Rose is out, but they're 7-3 in their last 10, so they're actually playing better. So we'll see what's going on with that. We don't have much time for the Western Conference. I want to get into some college basketball. Huskies, big game tonight at Memphis. We know they lost their first two in the AAC to Houston and SMU, the Larry Brown-led SMU team. They bounced back with a big win against Harvard, and then they beat up on Central Florida this weekend, 84-61. But they are at the 17th ranked Memphis team tonight, as a matter of fact. I'll be racing home to watch that game. And then they face the defending champion Louisville Cardinals this weekend as well. So two big games right now. AAC, Cincinnati is on top. They are ranked 19th, 5-0, 16-2 overall. Louisville second, 3-1, 14-3. Memphis, and Louisville's only ranked 18th, Bob. And UConn fell out of the top 25. Duke's hanging in there despite their losses. We lose, of course, we get kicked out of the top 25. Memphis is in third. Houston, 4th, 2-1, 10-6. SMU in fifth place. Rutgers, UConn, UCF, South Florida, Temple. Temple, Bob, what's going on with Temple? 0-5 in division, in conference, 5-10 overall. I mean, Temple should be one of the teams that is good in this new conference. And the thing about this new conference, Bob, is I don't know what to get familiar with. I'm trying to get familiar with it, but it's going to change again next year, right?
Yeah.
They're going to add even more teams. If you want to, you're interested in what's going on in the Big East? Because we got, that's where we used to be.
1 minute.
Right now, Creighton is on top of the Big East. How does that sound to you, Bob? Creighton?
Yeah.
They're the number one team in the Big East? Weird.
Yeah.
And Nova is number 2. And in the ACC, no surprise, the two Big East teams are 1 and 2, Bob. Syracuse 4-0, Pittsburgh 4-0 in the ACC.
We got about a minute left, so.
About a minute left. The NCAA overall, Arizona is still number 1, Syracuse number 2. They're 17-0. Wichita State's still undefeated at 18-0. They're number 5. Wisconsin and Michigan State, the Big Ten teams, number 3 and 4. Villanova is number 6 right now, Bob. They're off to a pretty good start. Florida is number 7, and UConn beat them, remember. All right, we're fading out. Credits are rolling. We're out of here. We'll see you next week. Thanks for the call.